What's up, Bravehearts community? This is Sean Heineman here with another segment of It's Scary to Be Married, wanting you to love fearlessly. Today, we have a special guest with us, and this guest of mine, I met him on social media and we got to connect, and I was honored because I love what he's doing for men. So let's talk about today's guest. He is the founder of Visible Man. Their mission is to end the problem of male suicide through connection, education, and training. He is a father, a podcaster, and an advocate for men. Bravehearts community, let's give a warm welcome to the founder of Visible Man, Jeff Hoffman. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm good, Sean. Thanks for that great introduction. Hope I live up to it. It's
Oh
good to be
no,
on.
I'm pretty sure there's probably some stuff that I left out. I know that you do so much more.
Yeah. Well, I try, but I think we're both after the same thing, helping people out. So I appreciate this.
Yes, for sure. Uh, Visible Man is going to be the topic today. And of course, that's the name of the podcast as well. But I love the name because as men, we we want to be seen, right? I mean, there's so many things that we can bring to the table in marriages and relationships in our own personal life and our kids' life. But at the end of the day, we want to be seen too. We are actually people too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. That's where the name came from, is that at a certain point in my life a few years ago, I felt invisible. I felt like my contributions were mostly what I could provide to others, but that my own value, my own innate value wasn't really seen by other people. And I kind of over time realized it even by myself. So that's where the name Visible Man came from, is that you're right. We all want to be seen for who we are.
Yeah, I love that because I believe this is a big struggle for a lot of men. I know I've struggled with it for men. I was thinking, am I only as good as my last paycheck?
Yeah, I know, man. It's that it's so easy to fall into that, and it's hard to know where it comes from, or if it's cultural, or it's, where we kind of build that expectation for ourselves, where, we seem to think that our contributions are what is most important. And yeah, only as good as your last paycheck is a good way to put it.
Yeah. You said this. I was doing some research, and in the I guess you was a guest blogger on the Mediation Center.
Yeah.
Great post. And you said this: during my divorce process, I was grateful to the community that surrounded my wife so that she could be supported and bolstered as she went through this huge life change. But I received no such outpouring. I wondered if I was the only man who felt this way. Why do you think women have a community of support during divorce opposed to men? Are you tired of dating the same person, just different faces? Are you tired of people wasting your time in this whole dating process? Do you desire to marry one day? I created this 5-part video series entitled Dating Intentionally 5 Ways to Know They Are the One for You. You can get it now in the comment section below. You will see it is the number 5 ways to know podia.com. I created this 5-part video series with you in mind. Now let's get back into today's podcast episode.
Um, I think I think women generally do a much better job of supporting each other. And that's great. It's so important. I wish men did that more. And I, you know, I, I'm not a psychologist or sociologist or mental health professional as a caveat, but what I witness and what I see is that women have a group of friends that they can count on, even from childhood. I have 2 daughters; they're teenagers. I love them so much, and I can see, as if one of them has a difficulty, or they're crying, or they're going through a breakup, or something like that, their friends kind of swarm around them in a way that I don't think guys do. So I think some of it is kind of what we're used to seeing when we grow up. Um, and like I said in that post, I'm grateful that my wife had that, because it sucked. I mean, like, as you know, I mean, divorce is, it's a everybody's experience is different, but it's hard no matter what you do. And I suppose there's probably a demographic or an age group where divorces happen more often. And I found myself, when I was going through the divorce, in situations with people that I'd known for 10 years. And a few of them were actually going through divorce at the time. And I didn't even know about it. I mean, I would see them every couple of weeks, or barbecue or whatever.
Mm.
And you can kind of sniff out some snarky comments. You kind of know that some relationships are having trouble over at a party. You're like, something's not good there. Um, but it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe halfway through the divorce process that I don't know if I had enough to drink or if I was just at a particularly low point,
Mm.
that I said something to my friend, and we kind of snuck away to a corner about how things were going. He's like, shit, you too? Like
Mm.
and so um, that was one of the moments where I realized that it's sort of like, if you're in a public setting, everybody has their own lives, their own private lives. And women do such a great job of just having constant, and maybe this is a generalization. I shouldn't
Mm.
say across the board, obviously. Um, but with men not having necessarily that touch points or framework to reach out and make an example of being vulnerable, going, dude, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be lonely. Like, what's going to happen? Are my kids going to love me still? Um, and just to lean on each other. That was one of the points where I realized that there was a need for something like VM, where there was just a mechanism to create a bridge for guys to connect. So that's sort of a way to address that thing that you brought up about men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and during that time, of course, you wanted to be seen, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was hard, man. As you know, it was hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would like to talk about that because a lot of times I see, and I was talking about this in another video. I was talking about how people have these divorce parties and all these other things,
Yeah, I
And,
saw that.
yeah, right. And I get it, but at the same time, I don't think we discuss the when you're alone at night, right?
Oh.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and you have to deal with you and the years that you've invested in this marriage, and you worry about the kids, and like you say, am I going to be broke, am I going to be lonely? I had to pay child support and alimony for a year. I
Mhm.
remember my brother was talking to me one time and I was worried. I said, I'm going to have to pay alimony too. He was like, don't worry about it. He's like, alimony's for rich people. I was like, you sure?
Oh, it's like, is that, but yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, that is, that's a big drain on your account. And, and it's there, there's an investment in the marriage on both sides, but then on the back end of it, to get back on your feet, that is a severe, you talk about the analogy of a ball and chain comes to mind, but like that's a real hindrance to your financial well-being when you're trying to get back on your feet. So yeah, I can empathize with that.
Yeah, right. And that's an episode within itself as far as just
Yeah.
starting over.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. But and your point about you have to be with yourself at night when you're, the divorce parties. Right now I am the best I've ever been, and because I've learned so much through what I've been through, but it has been really difficult. And I can remember I was actually going to throw a divorce party. I never did, but the notion of like, once that signature is done, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much better. And it's like a raw wound, it's
Mhm.
just you, and when you're alone at night and that wound is just kind of throbbing as the nerves are just raw. um it's so easy to numb it and distract yourself, which I am very guilty of. um
Me too.
but yeah, and it's kind of like a salve. Is that the right word? How you say it? Salve, like
Mm.
there's a bit of I think there's a bit of it that's okay to get through it.
Yeah.
Obviously excessive is not good, can be harmful, but it's really hard to that was my hardest moments is when I was alone in my apartment. Oh my gosh. And you have to sit with your feelings. That was the hardest part. So yeah, divorce is um the process is very difficult. But on the other side of it, I think you can be a much better person on the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's even some things that my ex-wife and I went through that just for the sake of her overall well-being. Like I always tell people, I would never throw her under the bus or anything of that nature, ever talk bad about her, because obviously I was married to her for almost 15 years. So what does that look
Mhm.
like, me talking bad about my ex-wife, right? Like,
Right, right, yeah.
you
Yeah.
spent 15 years with her, right?
That yeah. No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah, you chose her, but there's just some things that I'll just choose not to discuss. I will be transparent about a lot of things, but there's just some things that while that process is, you just like, man, I want to just get over this, but at the same time, I have to process my feelings, learn how to be better after this divorce.
Mhm.
And we're not even going to discuss parenting, right? Like
Oh,
co-parenting if they're under 18.
oh, dude, yeah. It's hard, man. Yeah. It sounds like our timelines were pretty similar because I was also with my wife for about 15 years.
Mm,
And my girls are, well, almost 21 and 18 now, but at the time of the divorce, they were 12 and 9, I think. Uh,
mm,
but yeah, there's something just this week, actually, a couple days ago, I had a conversation with my ex-wife where I had the opportunity to throw her under the bus, not to anybody else, but I had the opportunity to really make her life more difficult, and I would not do that. I just
mm,
um, and I think it's interesting because sometimes we have friends that just want to be on your side and want to go ahead and stick it to her or whatever, but I'm the one that has to sleep with myself at night. I have to be able to be okay with my decisions and be able to stand up in front of anybody and be like, I chose to do this and I stand behind that,
mm,
which is kind of another thread behind Visible Man is that I want to be seen. I want people to see me for who I am, and I'm a good person, and
mm.
I do the best that I can, and I think we all do. I think there are people that are malicious and make choices that are hurtful, but I think we do the best we can with the information and experiences that we have, and I want to be able to stand behind that. So there's a dignity and respect that I think that you and I can speak to that we wouldn't do that to our ex. We just want, as one of the guys in the VM server says, it was a quote from a rapper. I'm not going to get it right, but he's like, it's not that I don't want you to eat; it's that I just don't want you to eat at my table anymore.
Mm,
That was so. He's like,
mm.
I don't wish any ill will on my ex. I just want us both to be well in our own spaces.
Yeah. And as you were talking, what I hear was, you, like you said, you could have thrown her under the bus, but you didn't. And when you said that, in my head, the first word I thought was healed.
Mm,
That's
yeah.
what I heard. Healed.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
think about it. Whenever you get a chance to destroy somebody and you're not healed, you're going to take that shot.
That's a good point, actually. It
Yeah.
it does take some strength to sit with that and um uh I I think the word magnanimous comes to mind because it's like you're in a position where you could really cause some damage, but you're out of respect, you're not going to do that. So healed, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, healed. Let's talk about male suicide. And the numbers are high. Like I was doing some research and there was just so much information on this. It was almost scary.
Yeah.
Uh, why is male suicide so high?
That's a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is that there's never one cause to suicide, and that there's the NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, publishes some good guidelines for you if anybody's interested. And there's kind of two categories of things. There's risk factors and protective factors.
Mm,
So protective factors would be things like you have a good friend network, you exercise, you have a family history of communication. There's dialogue. Risk factors are were you recently laid off or divorced? Was there a history of suicide in your family, or have you been depressed, excessive, things like that. With men, we're a different animal, as you know. I mean, um, I often think about making a T-shirt that says "Men suck at communication," or sharing their feelings, because we do. I mean, we're just not brought up that way in many times. And like you said, the statistics are staggering. Men complete suicide at a rate that's 4 times that of women, with the highest rate being in middle age and in elderly people. So between like 40 and 55, and then again at 70, 75, it picks up again. It's like a roller coaster where this is also a big jump in your 20s.
Mm,
Women attempt more often. And I don't know if attempt is the right word, but
mm,
um, it's less often that they complete. And having 2 daughters, one who attempted suicide and is now well,
mm,
I have exposure to kind of a little bit of what, from the outside of what women go through. But um, with guys, I think there's a lot of factors. We we don't identify our feelings very well. Um, we don't when we do have them. I think we mask them with either addictions or sex or violence. And it's so much easier to fight or to punch something or drink,
mm,
um, and to externalize all that angst that we've got going on,
mm,
than it is to sit quietly with your dude and be like, I don't know what to do. I
mm,
really don't know what to do. That is so hard to do, but it's the higher ground to take than it is to do it some other way. So I think that my personal opinion, I think that guys are very much I don't know, I think of this like we're scared puppies or something like that, that were abused,
mm,
and that or a kitten, and like you just lash out rather than sitting quietly with these difficult feelings.
mm,
And we internalize them because there's so much cultural pressure on us to be the provider, the creator of safety, which I think we love. I do think that there's a pride and a power and strength in that type of role,
mm,
but it comes at the price of, it's very hard to be vulnerable then. um, and like we say in VM, one of the ultimate forms of strength is being vulnerable, is
mm,
because um, you have to choose to be willing to accept that somebody may not like what you have to say. And you have to have the supports behind you so that when you do say it or feel that way or be who you are, that there's people behind you. um, and because of so much of where men end up in their middle years, we don't have those tools. The tools that we've had have not been healthy, and so when those tools become less effective, I think, um, as they say, you lose the fight to depression. The fight with depression is that it's not you don't. I would argue that many people who have completed suicide don't want to die, is that they just want the pain to go away. They want to
mm,
break, and that's what their choice is. So it's a sad reality that men die at such a high rate. And um, yeah, I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I think it's kind of a silent epidemic, like you said. The data is out there, but
mm.
it's not talked about as often.
Yeah, it is a silent epidemic. I attempted suicide at like 21. Like,
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I wrote about it like in my first or second book, one of them. But anyway, I
Mm,
was at during that time, and I'm at 21, maybe 20. And I was just at a place where I was tired of just living because I was thinking, okay, so this is all I do is work, have sex, and party.
yeah.
And I'm like this at like 19, 20.
Mm,
So I'm just like, there has to be more. And I think I didn't know how to express myself at that time.
mm,
I remember talking to my therapist one time, and she said women internalize their pain, and men we put our pain on other people. Like you
mm,
said, it's the physical piece. That's why men are so abusive or destructive, because
yeah.
we don't know how to internalize what we're feeling. So instead of us processing, we just take it out on other people.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Um I think there's a lot of truth to that, that men externalize what they're going through, because it's simpler, I think, to
Mm-hmm.
just it's a very instinctive, visceral, animalistic type of response to punch something or
Yeah.
to break something or frankly to hurt somebody. Maybe it's probably easier to do that than it is to look inside.
Yeah, it is. Because for you to take some time to say, I'm vulnerable or I'm scared, that takes a lot of courage. And like I said, it's easier to just throw a glass or something,
Yeah, yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Mental health and self-care seems to be a big buzzword today. We talk about this a lot. I hear this on social media, on TV, self-care, mental health, which is great, right? But what does Jeff do for self-care? And can you give some self-care tips for men?
Um, yeah. So what? Uh, my self care has evolved over the last few years. I try to exercise when I can. I towards the end of my marriage, I ran a lot, like
Mm-hmm.
like a lot, and I think that was an escape. But now I'm throttled back. I'll go for a walk. I try to go for a walk a couple of times a week, just to get outside. I love plants. Oh my gosh, I live in New York, and there's like a foot of snow outside right now. I
Yeah.
hate it, but I have I could talk this. I could have a whole side podcast about. I have a hydroponic system in my basement where I grow like lettuce and herbs and stuff.
Awesome.
And and it gives me something to take care of. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can go down, I can measure something. I'm a dork, so I like spreadsheets. Like I could, so plants strangely are a big thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like hands-on things. It seems to me that doing something physical, even the outside, the plants, running, whatever, yoga, doing something physical, exercise. Oh my gosh, that for me has been. Those are some of the things that I do specifically. I've also realized how important it is to have a routine. There's a safety in the structure for me, at least, that
Mm-hmm.
I know. Even simple things like I know where my keys are. I know I make my bed every morning, and there's this there's a guy that says you should make your bed every morning
I
to
heard
start
that.
your day. Yeah, yeah, to start your day well. And we talked about this in the server, and I kind of pushed back a little bit because I'm like, if I'm not feeling well, then like if I'm depressed or if I drank too much or I'm feeling down on myself, I won't make my bed. So making my bed won't make me feel better. Put it that way. But there's some solace that I can find in the consistency. Um, and there's a book called, it's interesting, it was written decades ago, called Games People Play. And in it, he talks about there's a primal need for structure. I think he calls it a structure hunger. Um, and I find that to be true. So back to your question about self-care, um, recognizing the importance of having a structure is good. Um, the another my current, I guess, my current focus for self-care is boundaries. Oh my gosh, that is saying no to people.
Love that.
It's sort of like saying yes to your structure and to yourself, as corny as that sounds. um, Even something as small as if like yesterday somebody messaged and said, hey, I really need to chat, like, is anybody up for a voice chat? And I was laying in bed resting because after my busy day, and I picked up my phone and I thought, oh, this guy needs help. But I said, like, I need to take care of myself. And so I didn't say no to him specifically, but I didn't pick up the opportunity and I let somebody else do it. um, so I think that's another important self-care thing, is
Mm,
to have boundaries to take care of yourself.
I love that. Have you read Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend?
I haven't. Is it good?
Oh, I love that book. I never
Oh,
understood the importance of boundaries until I read Boundaries by, and they have
really?
like a whole series on it. Henry Cloud and
Really?
John Townsend, very popular
Wow.
authors. Yes, I love the book. And once I realized boundaries, I think that really helped me to understand and prioritizing myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm always giving of myself because I'm like, I
Oh,
just want to be a good father. I just want to be a good husband, and all
yeah,
these things. And boundaries just, I was like, oh, I'm important too.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it, I didn't think about that, but boundaries are like your way of they're like the instantiation of your priorities. They're like, what's important to you? What are you going to say yes to? You know,
Yeah.
and just as importantly, what are you going to say no to? Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to Will Smith book. Great book, by the way.
Mm.
I would prefer for you to listen to it on Audible opposed to
Okay.
reading the book because it's. But he talked about how he struggled with boundaries because he just wanted to be a good guy. He would always sign autographs, never told anyone no. Anybody
Mm-hmm.
needed money, all these things. And he was talking to his therapist, and she said, "Just prioritize yourself." And he said, sure enough, the next day he went to the gym. There was a guy. Hey, Will, I need you to take this picture with me, and my cousin has like Down syndrome or something and all this other stuff, right? And Will
What did he
say,
do?
I had a choice to make. Either I'm going to make this guy a priority or I'm going to prioritize myself.
Mm.
And he said he took the latter. He prioritized himself. He said, but he struggled so hard with
Oh,
saying no. He said when he was done in the gym, he went home and he cried that night because that was the first
oh,
time he told somebody no. Like he had to prioritize himself because he's like, I'm Will Smith. I'm supposed to, like save
I
the
love
world
that
and all
guy.
this other stuff. So
Could you imagine being Will Smith's therapist as a side note?
I
that'd,
could,
that'd be, I love that guy, man. But that's a good point, though. I
yeah.
mean, it hurts to say no to people. It hurts, but it's very draining. It's in the long run. Oh my gosh, it takes the energy, it sucks it right out of you.
Yeah, it does. And I'm not going to even talk about that. I'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I want to. You have after this, you have to tell me about the name of the book that you just referenced about boundaries, and then I'll have to look up Will Smith's book. So I want to hear now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What is one thing you wish women understood about men? To all the lady listeners, because I know they listening. So,
Um, that we're a lot more afraid than we think than we come off, and that if we snap back, or are hard to reach, or we appear angry or withdrawn, um, sometimes we really aren't thinking about anything. Sometimes the really answer is nothing when you ask us what are you thinking about. Um, Another common answer is that we have a lot on our mind, but we don't know how to verbalize it, and that we need you to be very gentle with us, not like you're on eggshells with us, but just
right.
like you. Back to the pet analogy, not to infantilize who we are as dudes, but like if you get a new pet in your house and it's afraid and hiding in the corner, you're not gonna, you know, strap a leash on it and pull it out of the corner. You're gonna be like, it's okay, come on over here, come
Mm-hmm.
on here. I'm here. Here's some food. You need a hug? I'm here. Don't worry about it. There's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you share with me, I love you, and I've got your back, and we've got this. We're a team. Whenever you're ready to share, I'll be here. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I, in my opinion, I think we have a lot more uncertainties and fears than we let on, and that we kind of puff our chests up and be like, "Oh, maybe I got this," and we don't know what the hell we're doing, but we
Mm-hmm.
know that I'd say we're the only ones that are going to do it, but we feel like we're the only ones, and so if we feel like we have a teammate that is safe and not going to judge us or laugh at us, um, then we feel safe to open up and trust you. Um, so I think that's probably something that I have a hard time even expressing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid and I need help more than I probably admit.
I love that. Yeah, because there was the other day, because I had COVID last week, I think, 2 weeks ago. Some I lost
Wow.
train of thought, but anyway, I had COVID a week or two ago, and
Wow.
I remember just coming off of COVID and didn't know how much it played on me mentally. Just
Mm,
being cooped up in this room and trying to recover and watch my wife taking care of the kids, and she's like taking out the trash. She's doing all my responsibilities, and I'm just feeling horrible, right?
yeah.
But when I came off and I was talking to her one day, or she was talking to me, and she said, "You seem like you're in your head." And I was like, yeah, I was like, I am, but I didn't know how to verbalize what I was dealing with. So it
Mm.
took me almost 24 hours, almost, for me to get everything together and tell her this is where I'm struggling right now. But what I
Oh,
loved about her was she wasn't judgmental. She basically was just like, I'm here until you're ready.
wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's good
And
that
that
she.
helped me say, okay, this is a safe place for me to be because she's here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's perfect. she sounds like she's a good fit.
She is. Love
Yeah,
her, great
that's
woman.
awesome. Yeah.
Um, what do you say to the man who blames everyone else for his problems? Because I get it that as men, we do have struggles. We live in a real world. I get it. But there are some
Mm.
who is always everyone else's fault. Like, do you ever have those tough conversations with guys sometimes? And if so, how do you kind of get them to at least back to ground level to help them see like you can do this?
Oh, let's see, guys. I think anybody who blames everybody else for their problems might. I guess I would challenge them to look at what they have control over and what they don't. Um,
Mm,
and it's hard, if somebody's blaming everybody else for their problems, um, then they're probably not in a good place.
mm,
I'm thinking of a conversation I had with my daughter a couple of days ago where she was distressed about going to an appointment, and nothing I could say was the right thing. Nothing I could say. It was so exhausting. Oh my God. I love her. I love her. Um, but um, it was hard to get through the fact that there was a logical way out of this thing. Um, I think if somebody tends to blame everybody else for their problems, then they're probably not taking ownership of how the things that they've done may be affecting other people.
mm,
And to having somebody who is in a position that's more objective, like a buddy or a friend, speak to them about this thing, because
mm,
it's less, you might get less reactionary if it's somebody like your parents, or you might get more reactionary if it's somebody like that has a really heavy influence on your soul, and you get defensive. But it's somebody who's like a little bit detached, more platonic, somebody that you feel safe with.
mm,
um, that's a good source. And if you're going to a therapist, that's a good source too, is to get that outside opinion. It's interesting because it's hard if somebody doesn't want to see that to convince them to see it. You know, it's
mm,
sort of like it's like in the example of my daughter. If somebody's not in the place of, if somebody comes to you and says, "I'm really confused about this thing. Everybody is angry at me. Do you know why that might be?" Like that's so hard to do. That is so hard to do. Um, so I guess back to the example with your wife of saying, I'm here, maybe offering kind of a slight hint, be like, "Hey, I've noticed you've got some stuff going on. If you want to talk about it, I'm safe. No judgment. I'm here for
mm,
you."
mm.
Kind of being that brick wall that somebody can lean up against. It's very predictable and stable and not reactive to their emotions is probably one of the best things you could do.
I love that answer. That's good. Being stable, right? Yeah. I think a lot of people need that. A lot of people look for, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think people love consistent people. They
Oh,
just love people who are just kind of like this bedrock, and that's not saying that this person doesn't have issues of their own, but they're kind of more uh emotionally intelligent.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It, I have a friend that's like that, and she is very predictable. And she says, and I told her that's what I needed in a friend right now. Um, I said I just need somebody that is not going to react and who's going to be there, and um, it's I think it's easy. Those people aren't the ones that are I don't know how to say it, but because they're so predictable, they're not necessarily they don't attract drama, and so they're not always on the top of your radar.
Yep.
So the people that I think in some ways can feel like they're being taken advantage of if they're easy to forget about, because the people that are, their hair's on fire and they're like they need help right now. Those are the people that, I guess the squeaky wheel gets the grease. That kind of,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
like the people that are I'm an engineer, and like there's like process improvement type of things that
Mhm.
I do, and they say that the best day is the uneventful day. It's like when things are predictable and stable, and you've got a process, and you know where your keys are, and your coffee's whatever. Um, those are the best days because your hair is not on fire, and so yeah, I think people are. While there's an attraction to some of that chaos,
Mhm.
you feel safest opening up with somebody who's that concrete bedrock, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Jeff, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be a guest on this Scary to Mary. I want to acknowledge you for creating a platform like Visible Man to be a safe place where men can go. I think that's needed. I want to applaud you for making it through a divorce and still being able to stand and still be a voice for men and not to be someone who is bitter or resenting marriage. You have a lot of people who create platforms off of bitterness. I want to thank you for being a father and like I say, just being a voice for men. So I just want to acknowledge you and just say thank you. And to all the Brave Hearts community, make sure that you connect with Jeff as well. Jeff, give everyone your contact information and how they can get in touch with you, Invisible Man.
Sure. If you go to visibleman.org, that will take you to pretty much everything you need. We're on Spotify, and we have a Discord server that you can get to through visibleman.org. If you click the link on that page, it takes you right into the welcome room, and we'll have somebody from the mod team welcome you, and then you're in. So, yeah.
Awesome. And any social media handles, Instagram?
Oh yeah, yep. We're on Instagram, visibleman_org. We're on Facebook, visibleman.org. We're on Twitter, not as actively, and we're gonna start streaming on Twitch and Facebook with our upcoming episodes. But yeah, visibleman.org and Instagram is probably the best place right now.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure I have everything linked up in the show notes and in the description in the bottom. Brave Hearts community, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you go connect with Visible Man. If you are listening on via podcast, make sure you leave us a rating and review. If you are watching this via YouTube, make sure you leave a comment below. We'll love to hear from you. Make sure you connect with Jeff and Visible Man. This is Sean Heineman at It's Scary to Be Married with special guest
Jeff Hoffman.
All right, people. Take care.